Hello everyone, my name is Craig and welcome back to the channel. We got a good one for you. This is not a real firearm. This is the FESVADEE toy revolver that I bought off of Amazon. It's one of these little, basically pellet gun thingamabobbers. Let's get into the review. So I'll first start off with an external overview of the blaster, then I'll go over the ammo type. Actually, I should probably go over the ammo type before the blaster. So this blaster is not like any dart gun or anything like that. Actually, technically, it fires these very, very small plastic, basically like pellet thingies. You do that, and they come with these little shell thingies. So if you see any of these shell ejecting blasters before, like the 3D printed, you'll know what to do, and then you just fit them right into this thing in front the back right here, and that will actually go into the blaster and fire out as like a cartridge. Where is I have a pen here. I don't think that it's designed to be removed all the way after you put it in, but what else? So these little pellets, I haven't tried, but I am feeling it down on here. I feel like with the velocity, this might sting a little bit if you do it. It's not like BB, but it is not like a soft tip dart thingy. I definitely, for this blaster, I know there's red black, I would not bring that outside at all. And these little shell thingies are proprietary to them. Interesting concept. You'd load in through this little short piece here, this longer piece, and then it'll be fired out through that way, because that will go into blaster, right, to mimic like a bullet casing in a real firearm. So that is the ammo. Very interesting type. Let's get into the blaster itself. This, I will note before I get this is not a real firearm. I'm not to that, but I will still treat it as such. I'm getting up to the front. So there's obviously no in-strike barrel lug. This is not a Nerf brand blaster. Getting up front, there's nothing here. There is an iron sight here. I have yet to see how accurate this is. I'm pretty sure, since this is not a Nerf toy, that it might be pretty accurate on that one. Getting back to here is the hammer mechanism. To do that, you'll prime back and you're ready to fire once. The prime weight is pretty strong, and you do have to be pretty quick in order to fire that. It is definitely much harder than most Nerf Elite blasters on the market right now, but it is supposed to mimic an actual like firearm blaster. I'm a little bit nervous trying to review this because it looks just so much like a real firearm. It's like, right? YouTube might actually even try to come after me for that with this one. Getting down to the bottom here, this is the grip. The grip is pretty proportional to the blaster. Actually, it's not really, but it's supposed to mimic a Colt Python 357, which it shows right here. Right, the grip is actually very comfortable, and actually this is well balanced. If this was a real firearm, this would be pretty darn heavy. But the grip is actually pretty comfortable, and I had small hands. This fits probably the best grip that I've ever felt, even out of like most Nerf blasters. Getting down to the trigger pull is pretty smooth. This blaster obviously does not have slam fire. And I believe in order to fire, you do have to cock the hammer here in order to fire. If I recall correctly, I will do some testing of that. I believe that is how. But also getting to the cylinder part of this, as I'm treating this like a real firearm. Do not put your finger near the trigger. Always treat it like it's loaded. All of that. Don't point at anything you're not willing to shoot. All of that stuff. Yes, I'm applying real firearm rules with it. Located on the left side, not on the right side, not full ambi, bro, is the cylinder release. You'll pull that back, and the cylinder will pop out to freely spin. That's where you can put in these shells into the rear loading system. They will not fit in up front. You will load it to the rear like this, like that. And the capacity of this is 6 darts, and then you can just simply shut it just like that. And just like a real firearm, there is this shell ejector pin. If it is supposed to work, you push this in, and out comes that. It's almost like a speed reload. You'll push that in, and you use the speed reloader to reload that. Yeah, that mechanic, although I haven't had like a full quantity, I only put in 1 shell at a time. I haven't had the best experience with it. Even doing that, I mean, I can just tilt this backwards and it just falls out, but like it's inconsistent. If you have it not tilted, it's not ejecting very well. So I don't think that this mechanic was designed very well, but I mean, they couldn't make it like an actual firearm. But that's really cool that they put that in there. So we'll shut the cylinder like that. You just put in one of those, you pull this back, and you're ready to fire. Although this does sort of dry fire like that, and it does click like that, so you can go around dry firing with this blaster. This is obviously nothing like Nerf has done. Very interesting way of doing things here. Let's also talk about with the paint scheme and color scheme real quick. I would recommend, even if you get this, I get this as a red and like this tip. This is still technically a toy that they have it. I would recommend a repaint, so that way, unless if you're inside, right? Because you take this outside with this, even with this red, and no, police will pull you out. Will pull you over. They'll probably get very defensive, right? They'll take a defensive posture because this looks like a real thing. And that's a good thing, and that's also a bad thing. Good thing with the marketing with that, and also a bad thing because that's what it could be. But yeah, so that's all that I have to go over. It's pretty simple. If you've ever fired this pistol in real life, you'll understand how to fire this. It's actually very basic mechanics, except for there's no safety mechanism with this. So yikes. Let's get into a firing demo. Well, gotta love myself. I have 5 shells here. I've managed to have this blaster for a total of 20 minutes, and I've already lost one of the shells. So yikes. But this is gonna be fun firing demo because I'm gonna demonstrate and show you guys me actually loading each one of these shells and then into the blaster. So we'll put that down. We're gonna take a couple of these shells. We'll just put in one. Oh. And I put that in wrong. 1, 2. Watch me find it as I do this demo. 3. I should probably hold this up to the camera so you guys can see this right in like that. 4. They did send me 6 shells. I checked the slots with that one. Make sure that it's not in there. All right, 5 shells loaded. We're gonna load it into the blaster here. And it is always rear loaded. 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put that in. This is at about 5 feet away. Alright, looks like I am out. Watch this. Wow, so much for speed reload. Like, the system just doesn't even work anymore. There we go. Now they worked. And I almost jammed that system. Wow. 2, 3, 4, 5, all the shells accounted for. So firing analysis and conclusion of the FESVADEE Revolver toy. The firing performance was pretty interesting, actually. I would say is actually pretty darn well. They fired out with extremely high velocity with that. I wish that I had a chronograph. As soon as I can get a new chronograph onto that one, this is going to be one of the ones that I'm going to re-review, because I would love to add the chrono data to this review. But it's a very small projectile, but it seems like there's a lot of power going behind that blaster. Let's talk about the shells and this able to type in here. I'm never a fan of this actually just going into the shell and into there. I'd rather it just, the projectile go into the blaster and then fire, right? But there's this whole lot of concepts I can kind of get with that. Now, what I haven't tried is if you accidentally load it the wrong way, will it still fire? Or are you done for, right? Actually, I could probably test that right now. So that one's loaded in incorrectly. It still does fire. It looks like at a much lower velocity, but it does indeed fire. So, I mean, either way that you put it in, make sure that you try to put it in correctly. Now, this thing did not come with instructions or anything, which seems like that it should be, it should be required with this. It would be very helpful with, because you could totally load this wrong, and then I didn't measure the velocity out of that, but it did fire. But I think there was a drop in velocity. I know I shot it like 2 inches away from me, but yeah. So I'm not a fan of this loading mechanism, but there's no real objective reason against it that I can see. Unfortunately, it's personal preference. I don't really like it. But talking about these shells, these are small as heck, and I guarantee you, I shot all 5, and I've already lost probably a couple of them. I think I was able to recover 3 out of like 5 of these. They're probably sitting over there somewhere in the corner of my room, and I already lost the shell. Now, also noting on this blaster will not fire without these shells. So if you lose these, you're done for. So make sure that you at least keep one of them and put it somewhere, right? So these two systems, it seems like especially this dart, I mean, you had this much space in there. You could put a bigger projectile in there. I would think maybe a slimmer but bigger, longer projectile in there. But I could totally see that, because that would mean that there would be less power coming out of there. But we'd seen other companies totally compensate with that with a bigger projectile, obviously. So I'm just saying, why not? Why make it this small? These are going to get lost altogether. And they sent me 2 trays of about like 10 or 12 for these. But it is very fun to do this and then load these in. I still kind of wished I was able to be front loaded in. Maybe I'm just not used to that, but the rear loading is super fun and actually pretty realistic. This is going for a realistic vibe, in case you can't tell, with that. So yeah, and the shells, I had this for about 20 minutes. I'm down 1 shell until I can find it. and pray to God they didn't short me that, because I don't think they did, but I have 5 out of 6 shells now with that. So also mentioning about the firing, you do have to be pretty precise with it, because if you load it up just straight up on here, it is a rotating barrel, so it will, you basically have to go what we call like one off. So you'll do it like that and then load it in like that one, and then that shell will fire, right? Pretty real with that. So interesting concept. I don't think that it's a practical concept, but I like what they're going for here. Speaking of cylinder release, this thing that's supposed to eject the shells in here is pretty garbage. Unless if you have like more 1 or 2 shells in there. I had a full round in here, and I was fully like spamming this thing, and at like a full like gravity tilt, and they would not eject. They eventually did. I got one of them out after I rattled it around, but I don't think this mechanism was built as well that it could be, even for a toy. But I could kind of understand why they couldn't put in something stronger in there, but because part of it, oh, now I see, part of it was like, if you short stroke it too much, it's just going to move back and forth the cylinder, not the actual like ejecting arm of this. But it's still I think they could have done a little bit better. But it's a fun concept that they actually added that, and it's fun to see the shells fly out afterwards. But I would be careful on that and be very precise, or you might give it a good whack, I would think, after doing that, because let's load it up with like 3. Yeah, you give it a good enough whack and the shells will eventually eject out of the blaster. So yeah, but I still think that it's worth mentioning a little bit. It could be user error from my part, but that's fun. Aside from that, there's nothing else really to do this. I can't really say, oh, add tactical rails something on here, because this is not a Nerf blaster. I don't even really expect it out of that. I can't really compare this to a Nerf blaster. This is a different type of projectile altogether. But if you're interested in buying this, check out FESVADEE on Amazon. And check out that one. I won't leave a purchase link in the description, because I've done that before and they've either expired or there's been weird issues with them, so I don't do that anymore. But you can definitely buy these off of Amazon for it. Other comments on this one, again, don't take this outside unless if you repaint it with bright and contrasting colors. Like, don't leave the barrel black, and definitely just, even though with the red, I would not want to step foot outside with this thing to a Nerf battle. Somebody's going to pull out a real firearm and you're going to get gunned down. Unfortunately, that's the realism in some parts of our world, unfortunately. And you have to be careful with that, because unfortunately, that's going to be brought up on you. Somebody can see it down and to be like, oh, it's just a toy. Look at this thing. Yes, this, like, even YouTube is going to think that I'm probably reviewing a real firearm, but I'm not. And I'm treating it as such if it is a real firearm, right? Probably could be doing better at pointing it in better direction, but still, definitely look out for that. But also, if you're considering buying that, be very careful with that. Make sure they come with all of these, and just store your shells and ammo somewhere, and the little pellets somewhere where you're not going to lose them, because if you do lose them, these are proprietary. These don't work with Nerf Elite darts or anything. It's only these. And I did buy another blaster from this company, so we're really going to test this company and really see. This was the first one. I was not expecting this at all. But aside from that, let's wrap it up and say, what is my opinion on this blaster? Actually very positive. It's scary realistic, a little bit. I saw this blaster after I unboxed it, and a look of worry after it came over me. I'm like, I'm a little bit scared to review this with this, because people think, oh, you're reviewing real firearms. With maybe in the future I might, but it's maybe not in a house-ish environment, maybe in a garage or somewhere safer, but definitely not like that. So, and it would be very weird if I just went from just Nerfs and no segue into like a real firearm as well. That's also why what worried me. But I believe that you guys understand that I would never actually do that unless if I'm saying, hey, I'm reviewing this actual firearm with it, or I would say that in the intro to make sure of that. But yeah, I love the realism, and I get that it does what it's supposed to do, and I get what they were trying to do, and they FESVADEE did a great job at that. Like this is supposed to be a realistic toy with little pellets. Again, about the pellets, I not sure. I mean, these seem soft enough, but I feel like that at a certain velocity they might sting a little bit, especially at close range. But I would be careful with these. They might be a little bit safer than you think, but this has some power behind it. So very interesting, and a really good start for this brand. Again, just the auto locking, auto ejecting, or the shell ejecting system, I think could have been refined a little bit. I also would have liked to seen a speed reloader. If you're going to go this far as to add in that in there, add a speed loader too. That would be so sick. You just put in another 6 shells. Have this come with 12 shells instead of 6. And then just load one up in the speed loader, boom, put it in, and you're ready to go. It has all the other realistic elements. Why not do that? But yeah, would I recommend this in a Nerf bout? No. But if you're into these weird things, this would probably do very, very well as a target shooter. I believe it was actually very accurate and stuff. So this is a weird review, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And yeah, my name is Craig. I'll see you guys in the next video.